Hey, I'm Jeff. I'm Brad. And today on Dude's Food, we're going to be making apple fritters with bacon maple glaze. We have bread flour, yeast, salt, sugar, lard, a little bit of mace, some baking powder, egg and vanilla. That's going to make the dough. For the filling, we got apples, bread flour, and cinnamon. And then for the glaze, we have maple syrup, 10x sugar, which is powdered sugar, some corn syrup, a little bit of water, salt, and some bacon that we just rendered off and chopped up by hand.
Might seem like a lot of ingredients, but
They're gonna
once you get it all together, it'll be.
They're going to disappear very quickly. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by taking the wet ingredients for the dough, water, yeast, which isn't so wet, and we're going to add the sugar in there. Okay?
There's two different kinds of yeast you could use here. In this case, we're using fresh compacted yeast, but you could easily use dry yeast. You'll basically divide the recipe for the yeast by a third.
We're going to let it mix and sit for about a minute.
Sometimes you have a situation at home where your yeast dies. So this is another good step. You don't want to go through the whole process and find out that your yeast was dead and it's not going to rise. So you'll see a little bit of bubbles start to form in the very beginning. That makes you know that it's alive.
Yeah, you know the yeast is, especially when it starts bubbling, you know the yeast is very active. It's been sitting for about a minute. Make sure you turn it off. What we're going to do is we're going to add the lard. We're going to add 1 egg. The inside of half a vanilla bean. You do this by cutting it in half, and you scrape the inside of the bean.
These beans are really expensive too, so when you're done scraping the inside of this bean, what you can do is you can take the outside of that, store it in a little bit of sugar, and you can make vanilla sugar.
You can also make vanilla extract with
vanilla extract.
I'm just going to turn that on just to incorporate everything. So while that's mixing, we're going to mix the salt, the baking powder, and the mace with the flour. Just mix it all by hand. And we're going to add this in thirds. So we'll start by adding 1/3 while it's mixing with the paddle attachment.
What's going to happen here is the gluten's going to start to develop, and that's what's going to give the bread its structure.
Now we're going to mix another 1/3 in. And once that gets incorporated, we're going to change to the dough hook. Show you what it looks like before you put the dough hook on. Once it comes together like that, get the extra flour off of it. All right? Then you can add the rest of the flour in it. Put it back on. Put the dough hook on. And you can make this in the KitchenAid mixer at home. It works just as well. This is just a bigger machine for the restaurant. And you want to mix this for about 5 to 6 minutes so you can start developing all the gluten on low speed. So while that's mixing, Brad, do you want to show them how to make the maple glaze?
So for the maple glaze, we have some powdered sugar. We're just going to take all our ingredients, dump it into a pan, heat it up a little bit. So we have the powdered sugar, a little bit of corn syrup here. Add that in, a little bit of water, some salt, and the maple syrup. So we're going to whisk that up. And then we're going to heat it up.
While Brad's warming that up, the dough's about ready to come out. I'm just going to put a little bit of oil in the bowl. I just want to move it around so the dough doesn't stick to it. And this isn't going to be like a bread dough where it forms a nice ball. It's going to be a little wet. As you can see, it started to ride up on the dough hook a little bit, but it's going to be a little sticky.
So this might be a little bit thick, so you're going to add a touch of water to it. Not too much. It's going to seem like it's all going to melt, but it will. You just got to give it a minute or so.
So make sure you get all the dough out. Then you just want to wrap this with some plastic wrap and let it sit for about an hour or two, depending on the temperature of your room. You want to let it double in size.
So you got your glaze here, and you just want to whisk out all those lumps. You know, when you first start going with this, you're going to think it's not going to all come together, but eventually will. And then we'll add the most important part.
For the bacon in there?
The bacon.
Don't put it in the refrigerator, otherwise it's going to harden up, and you're going to have to end up reheating it anyway. So you might as well just keep it out, pour it right back in the bowl. Try that. Yeah.
Again, it might seem like kind of a weird combination, but we all love salty and sweet.
I'll help you out there.
And if you're not down with it, you can leave out the bacon for sure if you wanted to.
So after about an hour, this has risen, it's doubled. What we want to do is we want to take a little bit of bread flour, you want to spread that down, and you want to put that out on the flour. All right? Brad, you want to work that into a 10-inch by 10-inch?
Yeah. So the idea is to kind of get it to the shape you want it to be right now. A little bit of flour on top, we'll press it.
While Brad's rolling that, all we did was take some apples, we cooked it with a little bit of lemon juice and some sugar. And we have a little bit of flour and some cinnamon that we're going to mix together. All right? So Brad's got that in a nice square. Make sure you get rid of the extra liquid from the apples. You don't want that to add that to the dough.
And you don't want to overwork the dough. If you overwork the dough, it's going to get a little bit tough. I mean, you have to move it around a little bit, but try not to mess with it too much.
So we're going to spread this out on about 2/3 of the dough and then sprinkle it with the flour and cinnamon.
The cinnamon's going to flavor the apples, and the flour is going to absorb all that moisture that's released from the apple, so it's not soggy.
So you want to fold the other third over it. You might got to get underneath it, close it up. What you have to do basically is cut it in strips, lengthwise and widthwise, mix them back up again, add a little flour, roll it back out. You got to repeat that process about 5 to 6 times.
All right, so now we have the dough all mixed together. What we're going to do is we're going to form it into a log, roll it out, and cut it into 8 pieces. So just kind of roll it over on itself. Roll it out a little bit. Again, try not to work it too much.
It should be good.
All right. Cut it in half, and then cut 4 out of each one.
Now you can see, well, this is the reason why we cut it and folded and kept cutting and folding, is because you want all those apples in there.
And that's what's going to give it a great consistency.
We're going to let these sit for about another hour in a nice warm temperature, and then we're going to deep fry them. Just lay it gently. You don't want to wrap it too tight. If you wrap it too tight, you're going to stop it from rising. And we're just going to put it somewhere warm.
All right, so we waited about an hour. They've doubled in size, so now we're going to get ready for the
they look
fry.
good too. You touch them, they spring back a little bit.
Really
Perfect.
nice, really nice.
So you want to make sure you have a nice pot of oil, temperature about 350 degrees, and then just pick them up
They're going to stick a little bit.
and drop them in. And they're going to take probably about 8 minutes, 6 to 8 minutes in here.
And again, when you're doing this at home, very important, especially if you have little kids running around, you want to do this on the back. I mean, we're doing it on the front because it's a professional kitchen, but if you're doing it at home, put it on the back burner. That way nobody comes running through, grabs it, and the whole pot of oil goes on somebody. That
could be bad.
Yeah. So
You turn the flame on a little bit. Anytime you put, a bunch of stuff inside of hot oil, you're going to drop the cooking temperature down. So you may have to turn the flame up a little bit to bring it back up to 350.
and you want these pretty dark. Most of the flavor comes from that crust. If you're concerned about the doneness, you can always peek in there, grab a little paring knife and poke in there and make sure it's done. Nobody wants to eat a raw donut. So we're just going to take them out of the oil, kind of let them drain. Then we're going to transfer them to a rack so we can glaze them. And you want that nice golden brown. That's what you're looking for. A touch browner than the donuts you're going to find in like one of those fast food donut shops. This is what's going to give it the character and that really nice flavor.
So when you glaze, you want to make sure that the glaze isn't too cold. It still is a little bit warm, because you want it to just ooze all over the sides of it. You just want a thin coating.
The heat from the donut's going to kind of thin it out. When you first put it on, it's going to be really thick, and you're going to think it's too thick. It doesn't look right. But as you can see, by the time we did one and then did the other, it's where it wants to be.
Oh, look at that. The apples inside, bacon.
So this is our apple fritter with bacon maple glaze. It's a Dude Food donut. Again, thanks for watching Dude Food.
And please subscribe.
Don't miss the season finale of the Why Would You Eat That Challenge when we crown a new King of All Eats. This ain't your grandmother's biscuits and gravy. Take a bite out of this Cajun-inspired Dude Food breakfast. Show Me the Curry's Hetel Janu introduces us to her ultimate sandwich, a spicy veggie wrap with paneer cheese on naan. Yum! We took your favorite deep-fried chili pepper snack and stuffed it in a Southern-style cornbread muffin. Bon appetit! Subscribe for more free tasted treats.